Photochromic equals photochromatic. From the English photo, regarding light, electromagnetic radiation, and its adaptation of the Greek chromatikos, relating to color, suited for color, which, when not used to describe a musical scale, means having the capacity to separate spectral colors by refraction, relating to or characterized by hue. And the answer is kind of, when asked if your photochromatic or photochromic lenses will do this. Hello everyone. Welcome to Prentice's Rule, an avenue for discussion, knowledge, and fellowship with focus on our eyes, the face that surrounds them, and the humanity behind your spectacles. While I am an eye care professional on the path to better understanding, I am not a medical professional, and as such, please seek the advice of a medical professional if needed. So, light adaptive lenses, variable tint lenses, light intelligent lenses, and even reactolights or light responsive lenses, all of these are the same. All of them are commonly known, at least here in the United States, as transitions, because that's what they do. They change color. They go from clear to dark when you go outside from in, when they are exposed to UV. They were first developed in the 1960s by William Armstead and Stanley Stuckey at Corning Glass Works. They embedded glass lenses with tiny molecules of silver halide and chloride, which are invisible until they are reached by and react to UV light, sunlight. Now, although they existed in glass lenses, and I'm fairly certain, but I'll have to do more research, and I apologize for not having done it. I'm fairly certain that in some capacity they were available prior to. The technology was not introduced commercially until 1991. At that point, Transitions Optical began as a joint venture between PPG Industries. They're also the ones that give us Trivex. We'll get into the different materials in a later episode. Between PPG Industries and Essilor International. Remember Essilor? The one that merged with Luxottica? Fascinating. That merge happened that joint venture happened in Pinellas Park, Florida, and it was the first time people could buy lightweight photochromic lenses. In 2019, the first contact lenses were introduced with photochromic technology, and that was a development by Johnson & Johnson with AccuView Oasis with Transitions. And this, of course, was in partnership with Transitions. It took about 10 years for them to develop that one. Currently, there are several different brands of photochromic lenses on the market. There's Hoya's Sensity, not quite sure who makes thin and dark, and Photofusion. I imagine that per our discussion at our last venture, that there are some that are done by Unity. Unity is VSP's answer to lenses. So here in the video, you'll see most of what I have are transitions, and that is I am not compensated by Transitions. I am not an employee of Essilor, Luxottica. We don't deal with IMED where I work or VSP. These are just the lenses to which I have current and ready access. These are my personal. You will see this last one that I'm picking up right now in the bottom right corner is Hoya Sensity. Now that is from about 5-6 years or so ago. And as you'll discover, transitions can lose their efficacy, say that fast 3 times, over time. And so, in the old days, when you had glass, if they didn't turn quite as well, you could throw them in the freezer to help reactivate. And what you'll discover is when you're in a cooler temperature, they activate more quickly, they take more time to deactivate. So here we have, starting from upper left, moving down in the left hand, extra active brown, extra active graphite green, extra active polar, which is only available in gray. I would like to point out that Transitions said that they were going to come out with a brown when they first were talking about coming out with extra active polar earlier this year, late last year. That has never come to fruition. I personally am not a fan of grays, but that's cool, you know, it's there, and it does go polar. It is a fairly weak polar. It will cause some older LED and LCD screens to completely black out, but very convenient. In the upper right and moving down, what we have in, well, let's go through these really quickly. I'll get to those other colors, because what you're going to see as I go through, some of these aren't activated uniformly. And that's because the UV has had something get in the way so that it can partially activate. And this plays into my love-hate relationship. So from top right down, there's the Transitions Amber. I had labeled the middle one, this one, as Transitions Graphite Green. It's actually the Sapphire. And then this being the Hoya Sensity. I believe it was a brown. So up until fairly recently, Transitions only had them available, Transitions, in gray, green, and the brown. They opened up jewel tones, so there's amber and sapphire and amethyst and emerald. I've had the amethyst. It's okay. I prefer the sapphire. The amber is lovely. I actually prefer it to a standard brown. And I have tried the emerald. Well, I've seen the results of an emerald. It does change perception when looking through it, and so I'm not necessarily a fan of that. There are some others from and into which you can get prescription made. I actually have some just here, and I absconded with a UV light so that I can show you. So, looking through this, this is what's called Transitions Driveware. Now, they acquired this, I don't remember the entity. I'm going to have to go back and put it in the notes, but Transitions did not develop this. They just bought this. But it starts out at as this kind of ambery color, and then once it's exposed to UV, it turns to kind of a coppery color, and then when it's exposed further to UV, it will actually become somewhat of a brown. Bear with me one moment. So just a little bit darker yet. Transitions Driveware is lovely. It is always polarized. It is fantastic in the car for up to about a middle light situation. It's really not enough when you're driving across the desert, if you're driving across, or walking, I should say. Don't drive across snow unless you have chains. But when you're walking across snow, it's if there's not good UV and it can't fully activate, it is not enough. I prefer something a little fuller, darker in those reflective situations. As far as other entities, now I don't know who's developed it for them, but Rudy Project has what they call a racing red color. And they have a photochromic lens that you can get in prescription that goes from clear to their racing red. It's not polarized, but it is lovely. And I am just upset that I can't get it in a standard lens. I mean, I can go through Rudy, you can go through Rudy Project and get it. But it's really nice, man. Now, this that I'm going to show you now is a Zeal product. I am chagrined because I don't have anything light really to show you what this looks like. So, it's kind of a lighter iteration than our friend the Driveware. Oh, let me not, sorry, there's mirror on the front. It's not fully turned back, and we're inside now, we're not outside. This would take much longer to turn back. But as you can see, it's kind of a little bit darker iteration than our Zeal, okay? The Zeal is a nice yellowish ambery color, and when activated, and it doesn't really have the in-between that Transitions DriveWare does, but when fully activated, it does become kind of a brown. It is always polarized. It's not a strong polarization, but it is quite lovely. Let's see. Yeah, well, no. There is. It doesn't go coppery, but you can see how it kind of makes that change to a little bit darker. Now, as you'll see in the video, and as I had mentioned a moment ago, when you are wearing Transitions, in the car they don't change. The extra active polar, what used to be called Vantage by Transitions, the marketing would say that they turn behind the wheel of a car. And that's just not true. What they will do is kind of go a shade darker at best, at most. Oh, sorry, I don't mean to cover the microphone. This is the Zeal, fully activated. So, kind of a brownish iteration. It is now closer to what the Transitions DriveWare starts as. You cannot get the Zeal product in prescription. Transitions DriveWare is the only of its nature that you can. Now, Serengeti, I don't know who the sunglass manufacturer, I don't know whom they have gone through in order to have access to the Transitions, the DriveWare that they have, which is really quite nice. But we no longer have commerce where I work. No longer has commerce with them. Their labs became problematic. So what I was pointing out, as you can see in some of these, where the UV hasn't reached, fully to the lens, it will give different levels of change, and that is why I tell my customers, my patients, that I have a love-hate relationship with Transitions. I'm in Utah. I need something behind the wheel of a car. At particular times of the year especially, although, we're in a drought. Due to climate change, we don't have quite the snow that we had previously. Shout out to my friends in and around Buffalo. God bless you. I hope you're wearing lots of protection when you go outside and the storms have cleared. But with the Transitions, again, they don't turn fully behind the wheel of a car. They're very convenient when you're out on a walk and have forgotten your sunglasses. They're very convenient if all that you have is a darker pair of sunglasses and don't want something quite as dark. They add expense. A side benefit that I have found is that with Transitions, particularly the standard iterations, you actually have a little bit of blue light blockage in there. It's about 18.5%, 19%. So when you're wearing them in front of a computer, you're actually getting some blue light block. It's a little bit more in extra active, but not a heck of a lot. So that's been a good thing for me. As much time as I've spent on the computer, particularly in the past few months, I find it to be quite helpful. And we'll get, in one of the episodes, we're going to talk a little bit about blue light and the protection and what is marketing and what is necessary. I've got to do some research, but at least a few years ago, out of almost all of the papers that were out, most of them were funded by coatings manufacturers and lens manufacturers, and a minimal amount was done via scientific study. That being said, there are a number of people that I speak with, that I work with, that find comfort in their vision when they have, something in front of them, the eyes and blue light protection. Now, one thing I want to point out, as you see I'm walking, there is a minimal amount of UV. The lenses themselves have a little bit of color. The marketing would say that they are perfectly clear prior to activation, and that is a bald-faced lie. There is always a little bit of color. Now, it's not really detectable when it's against your skin. It is not detectable when you're looking through it, but there is always a little bit of color. There is certainly more color present in the extra active iterations. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. There will be more. Forgive the uhs and the ums. I don't edit. I am in the process of working toward doing this as a live stream, open to comments, open to questions, and that is why we're kind of moving, although we're going to keep Prentice's rule, we're also, as a subtitle, having Ask an Optician as an addition, because I think it's important that you have your questions answered by someone who is not going to give you a bunch of marketing gobbledygook, because your opinions matter. I'm about to quote my friend Simply Obbs, you matter. Look her up. She's got a fantastic morning motivational minute-ish every morning. Simply Obbs. I'll try to remember to throw a link in. She's amazing. Anyway, thank you. I hope all is well in your world. I hope you have a beautiful Thanksgiving. I give thanks for all of you who have tuned in today. Be well. Take care of yourselves. Take care of those that you love. Tell them that you love them. Thank you.